Bum, bum, bum. Here we are. Another, well, I say another LILDL like we've done one of these recently. I do not remember the last one, but for those of you new listeners who haven't heard us before, do a Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor. That's what we got, LILDL. And it's live, so it's LILDLL. Well, it's live if you're in the... It's live if you're in the Lions of Liberty Pride. If you're not, then you're an idiot. And you should probably go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and join it right now. So I guess I would just introduce the crew here. We got a new cast of characters, but we got one familiar idiot. So let's go to him first.
I thought you were talking about yourself being the familiar idiot. I don't know where I would be lumped in with idiocy. Yeah, what, you talking about me, Brian McWilliams, number one in the hood? Future number one poll candidate?
Number 10 in your hearts.
Well, hopefully. At least I made the top 10, though. That's pretty good. Most people wouldn't even be in the top 50, I think. So, yeah. Good to be here. Excited to talk some cowboy shit. Let's go.
Me too. Yeah, we got, speaking of cowboy shit, we got some cowboys and cowgirls. Is that the right term?
Something like that.
Matt McKinley from the Burnin Daylight podcast. If you've been listening to my show recently, been having some ads put in there. So, Matt, what's going on, man?
Not much. Just enjoying the late spring snowstorm we got going on outside. Sun's starting to peek through, but we got about 4 inches of snow since about 3 hours ago. So that's pretty neat.
Damn.
What state are you in?
Western Nevada. I'm about 20 miles from the California line, but
that's ridiculous. Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's insane.
It's high desert, and you never know. It's I think we had a snow right about the same time last year. So yeah, it's we're out here in the middle of nowhere, just punching cows.
Punching cows. Also joined by young Katie up in Vermont, right?
Yeah, that's right. Although I feel like my name needs to get moved to middle-aged Katie pretty soon. I think we're transitioning out of that, but young Katie sounds better. But yeah, it's not snowing here, thank goodness. So we're having nice weather, lots of pollen. So everybody's all stuffed up here. And we just had our mask mandate lifted by our governor. So of course, no one's done it yet, but things are looking a little bit brighter.
These sons of bitches. It's like I keep reading stories of people like, I'm never taking it off. I'm going to wear it as long as possible. It's like, why? You're vaccinated. You don't need to. Especially the outdoor stuff. We've known there's no transmission outdoors. Now the CDC says do it outdoors, and they're still like latching onto this concept. I mean, here in LA County in California. California still has a mask mandate. So I tried to go into Costco. They rejected me. Told me to put the goddamn mask back on.
Yeah, our local municipal, I don't know what you call it, rec center where our pool is, where my daughter takes swim lessons. They didn't even make an announcement or anything. They just took the sign down and didn't say anything. And nobody's wearing a mask. So I'm like, sweet, awesome, no more masks.
How would it work when you're swimming anyway? I mean, you can't swim with a mask on, obviously.
Well, you can't swim with a mask, but the messed up thing is, her swim coach or teacher, or whatever you call her, had to wear a mask when she was helping her learn how to swim, which is insane.
That's basically like being waterboarded. You're in the water, there's water splashing on, cloth covering your mouth. That is waterboarding. That's what it is.
Just hope you don't need a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Yeah.
A little hard with a mask.
That but it double filters the COVID or something. I'm not sure how the water in the mask. I'm not a physician or a physics major either, but it's the weirdest thing because I live out in the middle of nowhere. Like our little valley where we live is about 1,500 people. We've got a little gas station / convenience store and a couple bars and restaurants, and that's about it. And we're not far from civilization, but it's a very rural county, and Nevada's weird because even though it went for Biden, there's 17 counties in the state, and he won 2: Clark County and Washoe County, Reno and Vegas. And the other 15 states, he basically said, "Fuck off. We're, I don't need you guys. You treated me bad," and so we're about 2 days behind most California mandates here, but out here in the sticks, nobody really pays attention. So it's just like I'm watching a movie this past year. Like I talked to my buddies and like I cowboy for a living, so we're pretty socially distanced naturally. I mean, I the reason I know about you guys because I listen to podcasts while I'm riding my horse all day, and I know Brian and Odie. I sent you guys some of my first episodes, and I recorded my first couple episodes while I was riding horse. And
how was the audio on those?
It wasn't bad. It was
for being on a horse. It wasn't as bad as you think it would be.
No, it had some nice ambiance, but and I had zero training in audio editing, so my learning curve was straight vertical. But I mean, it wasn't bad, I guess.
No, it wasn't bad. It's just you're trying to follow his thought, and then you hear say, "Yeah!" Just what? What's happening?
Yeah, it's. I can't imagine like somebody from like your background not having any clue what I'm doing. So I'm sure you're just like, Jesus. But it really is just like watching a movie. And I was gonna make a meme of I was gonna like Photoshop my face on Nero, and instead of playing a violin, well, he's still playing a violin, but just playing it with a giant dildo, just telling dick jokes as the world burns down around us. And it's wild. Like the closest I came to it, we had a little pro cop rally, or BLM was starting a rally at the next town over, and they had about 50 people show up, and then about 800 like pro cop conservative Trump people showed up in response, and I had to drive through the middle of the damn thing to get groceries, and I was pissed off by both sides, which is kind of my typical life. So. Not much changed during this deal.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like on both sides of this, it always seems to be that way and I think this is like the majority of people, but people are too shy to speak up and say shit ever for fear of being canceled or fear of their neighbors not wanting to talk to them. But I mean, I have to think most people view the Capitol riots as, this is some stupid shit over here. They view the BLM riots and protests as some stupid shit, even if they, at their core, might have questions about the election. Or they might think, yes, there is too much police violence. And yes, that black people haven't been treated as we would like to have them been treated over these past years. But then you see the consequences of all these actions. And the everyday people are the ones who are suffering, who can't go to the store, who can't, they've got their grocery stores burned down, their businesses burned down, their schools closed down. It's just like, it's insane. But yet I find it so frustrating that, especially after this last year, it doesn't seem that the vocal majority, or the silent majority, hasn't been speaking up. Like it seems like nothing's changed despite all this shit. You still aren't seeing the pushback. You still aren't seeing people say, "Hey, look, shut up and sit down." And what do we do about it?
It's wild because like most of my audience and the people I grow up, they're very much like the rugged individualist type. It's the American cowboy, the rancher, the farmer. But you start to peel back the layers of the onions, and you look at all the subsidies that the farmers get, and how a lot of them, they're basically paid. I mean, like they're honestly really pissed if they have to pull out their combine and actually harvest a crop and not collect government subsidized insurance payment. And then you got like these strong like individualists, like just rugged rancher types walking around wearing a damn mask, but they got to go to the doctor or whatever, and it's hard to bitch about them. And I mean, even myself, I very rarely wore a mask, but it was usually when I had to go to the city, so I avoid the cities naturally anyways. But like this past week or so, just when I was traveling, going through the airport and everything, it's like then you like, oh, this is what the real world is. It's not fucking Green Acres or anything out here, and like everybody is just masked up and paranoid, and I'm just like, I know I come from the sticks, but I have I guess a little greater faith in humanity than maybe I should even, but that faith in humanity has sure been weakened, I guess, to say the least.
Yeah, I got some faith back in humanity this past weekend with the Libertarian, well, not necessarily because of the result of the Libertarian Convention in Pennsylvania, but the Mises Caucus event, 350, 400 people, and not a single person wearing a mask other than like the bartenders, working there. And you could even tell that by the end of it, they were just like pulling down their mask and being like, oh, okay, this is what we're going to do. But it was so refreshing. But even like walking out to the lobby and mingling with the normal hotel people out there who were just sitting around the bar, most of them were taking their masks off. So I feel like once people see other people peel down their face shield, then they feel more comfortable. So I think it's gonna happen more quickly than even in California. I think it'll happen more quickly than maybe you're expecting.
I don't know, man. I hope. By the way, nice poster, Matt. Love it. The background Lions of Liberty PBR.
Yeah, thank you guys. Right next to my Boog flag and my Hat Creek Cattle Company sign. You can't be a true cowboy without having some tribute to Lonesome Dove. So there we go.
Did true cowboys also have to drink Coors Original? Is that
that's a law?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt, but I just like this stuff. I went to college at Colorado State, which is in Fort Collins, Colorado. At one point, had more microbreweries per capita than anywhere else in the U.S. But we're just about a half-hour drive from the People's Republic of Boulder. There, so with the good beer comes the hipsters and the trust fund hippies and basically California. I mean, if we're going to be honest, it's basically California transplanted. I'm a native Coloradan. That's why my Boogaloo flag is Colorado. But
I was wondering about that. All right.
It's that state is pretty well lost.
Well, you know what? It maybe something will happen like what happened. I don't know if you guys saw, but Oregon just had 5 counties vote to leave and join Idaho, right? Wait, is Idaho?
Yeah, Greater Idaho is what
and so there you go. I mean, I hope it succeeds. I hope the secession succeeds because, that's like, you got all these transplants coming in, ruining the state for the rest of the people that aren't in the city hubs. And like you're talking about Biden in Nevada winning Reno and Vegas basically taking the state. And if you looked, Biden won less counties than any other president in the history of the country. He literally won virtually nothing outside of major city centers, which is why it's whenever somebody brings up abolishing the electoral college, I'm like, well, you go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself proper, because you're seeing what will happen if you do that.
You know what they would say to you, Brian? Land can't vote.
Make love to me, Brian. That's what they'd say. Oh, land can't vote.
Land can't vote.
Oh, but it's wild, especially like because Nevada's such a weird state because it's 2/3 or 70% of it is federally owned land, and
that's crazy. That is nuts.
And it's I think it's like 3rd or 4th largest state as far as land mass goes. I think it's behind Alaska, California, and Texas, and there's still I think we just crossed 3 million as far as total population, but 2 out of 15 counties voted for Joe Biden, and they run the entire state.
Yep, crazy.
It's fucking wild, but I don't know. Nevada's still got that pretty strong libertarian spirit. We got whores and we got gambling. So what else more can you need? And you can walk into basically any store at any
whores and gambling. Is that on the sign when you drive into Nevada? Whores and gambling. What else do you need?
Whores and prostitution, the American Constitution. No, and you can walk to almost any store at any given time of the day and buy beer and nobody will even look twice at you. It's like it's pretty wide open as far as like the kind of the ideals and the principles of the state. It's basically like you help your neighbor and then you fuck off. You just leave everybody else alone. It's just do your thing, and that's kind of how most people in the rural community are, minus like the loud vocal like Christian right that kind of went wild in the the 80s and the 90s. But outside of that, for the most part, people don't care what the hell you do as long as you're not messing with them.
Well, let me challenge you there, though. But how did you get into what we will now forever call the Sunflower Debacle? Because I want people to hear about this story. Like, Matt, you were texting, or you were Facebook messaging me some updates about what was going on with you. So tell people about this ape shit crazy or batshit crazy sunflower seed COVID thing, and then I want to leap into, I don't know, I think Odie shared the story with you about literally anti-racism training. I want to talk about that.
Before we launch into that, we just see that Matt has some Coors Original there. I got some Bullet bourbon. Bullet? Am I saying it right?
Bullet, not Bullet. What are you, Mark Claire? Bullet. Well, I'm drinking because we're doing. See, I figured we're talking Burnin Daylight, Cowboy Shit. I figured I had to do some bourbon, so I did Maker's Mark.
Nice.
That's like one of my go-tos. I like Bullet, I like Maker's, and Four Roses. Those are kind of my go-to bourbons. But yeah. I drink shit way too fast, and whiskey catches up with you. So I stick with beer for the most part.
What about
Katie's just drinking a mason jar full of vodka.
Yeah, I'm doing just straight up vodka. Moonshine. No, but I'm going to have some Talisker later. I like really good scotch.
Nice.
Okay.
But it's like 100 degrees and where I'm doing this, so I needed to stay a little hydrated before I get too goofy on a live show.
See, that's where, before I got air conditioning in my house, we used to do these podcasts, and it was like, 85 degrees in my back den, just no airflow, because I have to close all the doors for sound, and I would just be sitting here sweating out pure alcohol. Some of the best shows I've ever done. Some of the sweatiest asses I've also ever had. Just soaking through my underpants.
I'm not looking forward to this summer because my little studio here, it works great in the winter, but it gets hotter than shit in the summer, so it's going to be brutal. But
you got to record at 2 a.m. That's the plan.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the screenshots I sent you Odie, it was pretty comical. I thought you guys would get a chuckle out of it. I was never worried about anything. It was ridiculous how far it went. So my two nieces and my daughter are all playing various leagues of baseball this year. So my daughter's in t-ball, and then my two nieces are in coach.
Women
kitchen.
In baseball? Yeah. What is this? A league of their own? Are we in the middle of a fucking war?
We already had this travesty happening, and then they're like, if we're going to allow this, it should be free for all the time. But anyhow, they because Nevada is such a strict COVID lockdown state in parts, I guess there's not much teeth behind it, but and I guess so like our county commissioners here a couple months ago voted to enact a state of economic emergency in response to the COVID lockdowns, and the gentleman that I'll be talking about, we'll call him Jared Dog. He's actually a city councilman for the next town over, and actually he did your pretty standard Republican try to make a stance. He talked some very good rhetoric, and then had no follow through. Just sat by quietly as he got voted down to reopen the city. But that was way back in June or something. But then they start easing up these mandates, and then so it looks like we're gonna have a little league season. And there was 4 or 5 people that stepped in to coach t-ball, so I was like, great, I don't have to coach this year, no problem. But nobody stepped up to really to help coach the coach pitch team. So and my niece was on there, so I was like, well, there's two other ladies that hadn't they don't follow baseball, they played softball in high school, and nobody else stepped up. So I was like, well, I'll help coach just because. And so we start practice, and I think it was the week before we were supposed to play games. They sent a group text, and I outside of my college buddies or some buddies that I met through the podcast, I fucking hate group texts anyways. Mm-hmm. But
can't leave them. Still no way to leave them.
I know it, and there's just you can mute them, whatever. But then if you're even somewhat libertarian leaning, you're somewhere on the spectrum, so you get those notifications, and if you don't clear them, they just bug you and shit.
By the way, Matt, you hit something on your screen. I don't know what you hit, but it looks like you're being sniped. You got a fucking target on your head.
It's moving with
maybe
you.
It looks like it's a drone screen, and we're targeting you to drop the bomb. I don't know.
Is that Jared Dog? Jared Dog's coming for you.
Jared Dog's calling in the drones.
I'm not I'm not divulging any personal info, bro. I promise.
It's just a square box that follows your head around.
That's
Well, he fixes that. What do you want to guess? I'm guessing Matt's ERA was 0.00. I'm guessing he struck those girls out with no mercy.
I've
Tough
only
love.
been 3 kids this year. I got that sorry white power symbol on your podcast.
Oh, God.
I apologize.
Well, we're canceled.
Damn it. I know it. Sorry, Jared Dog. But they sent out this text saying, here's the mask mandate. Like, if you're in the dugout, you have to wear a mask. If you're on the field, you don't, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, something that I'd never even considered, they said, and absolutely no sunflower seeds because of the spitting and COVID or whatever. And I was like, and so I made some smart ass remark. I forget exactly what it was. And I think I said, I'll bring a big bag of sunflower seeds and I'll have it at the end of the dugout so they can partake outside.
You should have brought a big log of chewing tobacco. They didn't say no tobacco.
You know what? They had never once gave me any sort of shit for this. And I live with it. So, but the sunflower seeds, that was, and so I made some comment, and then like our Valley rep texted back, and she's like, well, no, these are the rules, and we'll be shut down for the season if we don't follow them, blah, blah, blah. And if there's any more comments about this, it'll be moved further up the chain. So I just messaged old Jared Dog, because I'd had conversations with him in the past about this city council deal about reopening, because I was like, hey, here's somebody actually trying to stand up and fight. And I really wish I strongly considered moving or like setting up a residence over there just so I could run against him, but that seems like a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. You're like Larry David. You're like Cowboy Larry David, who sets up spite coffee shops.
I know.
Fuck you, Jared Dog. Fuck you, Java Joe.
I really love a good troll, anyway. So
yeah.
But so I sent him a screenshot of the text, and I was like, "What's your move, Commish?" And he's like, "Are you the one that sent this?" I was, "Yeah, I sent that." And he's like, "Well, we have to follow by these guidelines and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, well, I was like, who makes the final decision? Is there somebody else I can talk to that? And he's like, nope, it's just me. He was like very Harry Truman about it. But, the buck stops here. And I was like, all right, whatever. And as there's no wiggle room on these safety policies or guidelines. They're like, whatever. Well, my kid's not even on this team. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll step down. And so I should have been the end of it. Right. I mean, any normal person, I would think that's the end of it.
Yeah, you just drop it and move on with your life. What's the
but then
point
he
in continuing?
So then he responds with, good deal. Now that you are no longer coach and you don't have a kid in the league, I have to formally request that you no longer attend any practices or games. And I was
what?
I may not have a kid on this team, but I was like, my daughter's playing t-ball. And I will be at all of her games, and I will have sunflower seeds. At this point, just out of spite, because I started chewing tobacco like an adult when I was 12. So why do I need sunflower seeds?
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this. Is his rationale for the sunflower seed issue, or is this something he's going to be like, well, we've had a lot of molesters coming around to these games. Like, what the fuck rationale is it if you don't have a kid in the league, you can't go to the games? I don't understand. Out of left field.
It was his punishment. That's what the texts were really clear. He was like, I don't want you on the property. It's like, if you're not going to follow these guidelines, you're out. Yeah, and it's a hard line.
Well, and I'm sure, I have no evidence to back this up. This is just a gut feeling, but I'm sure I'm not the only one he's done that with. Because there's plenty of people that will bitch about everything. Now that I've delved into the world of Little League as on the parents' side of things, yeah. People will bitch about anything and everything. And so I'm sure that's his standard response is like, well, you're banned, blah, blah, blah. And then so I said, well, I'll be there and I'll have sunflower seeds. And he said, no, you will not. I'll have you arrested for trespassing.
Jesus.
And I said, okay. Bet.
On public property, by the way, right? These are public parks.
I told him, I said, I would love to hear, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at the cop shop when he said, I need to get a arrest warrant for trespassing for this guy. What's he doing? He's watching a t-ball game. Is he?
But wait for it. He's chewing sunflower seeds, guys, and then they just all run to their cars like, get the big guns.
Yeah. Well, like, wait, does he have a kid there? Doesn't matter. He's chewing sunflower seeds. And I was like, so you're gonna arrest me for trespassing on public property for watching my own daughter's game? And I said, go for it. I said, if you find somebody that arrests me, I said, I'll go peacefully, but I will not go quietly. And so we went back and forth, and from there it turned into just a major dick measuring contest. And well, it turns out I don't know what he had, but apparently 3 inches looked real big. But he ended up like calling an emergency.
And you work with horses all day, so really his dick looks extra small.
Yeah. But I don't know. I also I wouldn't say that I'm like well versed in the law, but I read up a lot. My dad was a Colorado State representative for 8 years, and he kind of marches to his own tune. He was elected 4 terms in a row in a heavily Republican district as a registered Democrat, but he quickly made enemies on both sides, and he was actually named the most corrupt politician in Colorado, or second most corrupt politician in Colorado one year, because he refused to pay a fine for. So when he would do his campaign fundraisers, he had set up in like this, and it was Eastern Colorado, so a bunch of little bitty towns, and he had set up on like in a city park or something, and him and his cowboy buddies would play guitar. He'd give his stump speech, and then he'd just have a tip jar at the end of the table. They'd grill hamburgers and whatnot, and people would drop in cash. So, but you're supposed to disclose, where all your money comes from. Well, he just didn't do that because it was all cash, and so they slapped him with like a $5,000 fine, and he just refused to pay it. Because also the Democratic Party was supposed to match funds with him that he fundraised, and they never did. So he didn't make much money as a politician, but he marched to his own beat, and through that, like, that just kind of trickled down. So I pay attention to shit, and so I don't see where you have a solid legal case here, Jerry. But I welcome the fact that for you to get a warrant, but then he
Well, this guy's probably, you're probably one of the first people to call him on his bullshit. Probably everyone else just backs down. Oh, you're going to have me arrested. Okay, I won't go to my own daughter's game then.
Not only that, but most people are too cowardly to question anything in regards to, like, once you put COVID on it, it's like racism. Once you say racism is attached to it, everybody goes, I don't know. Same thing with COVID now. It's like, because they go, oh, you're being selfish. How can you challenge us? You're not following the science, right? And so it's hard to fight back against that shit, against the general uninformed and frankly angry populace, right? Because you think about a lot of people, too. They're pissed off that they are locked in their homes. They're pissed off that these government mandates exist, but they're too cowardly to challenge them, except for people like us, people like you, etc. Yeah.
So then, like, we went back and forth for quite a little bit on, and it's just angry thumbs. And so then my wife, who's, a lot cooler head than me most of the time, and she was just like, just stop responding. Please stop responding. Fine, whatever. And he ends up calling like an emergency.
And this time you're sending me like pages and pages of these text messages.
Yeah. It went on for a while. It went on for a while, but so he calls up the other people on the board and said, they hold an emergency meeting as to decide my future fate in the Walker River baseball league.
Honestly, man, if nothing else, I would personally, maybe this is just me being an asshole in general, but I would take a lot of pleasure in the fact that these people held this special meeting, had to take this time out of their day, get together. Like, that in itself is a victory. That is a great fuck you. It's like, yes, give me your time. This dumb shit that you are walking us all through is sucking up so much of all of your time. Like, I'm one man. You're what? There were like 7 people in the room. The one video you sent me. Like, you guys are sucking a lot of your goddamn time up here on this dumb shit. Thank you. I'll take that. That's your punishment.
I made it it's kind of a like I wouldn't say I was Southern, but my mom grew up in Oklahoma, so she's kind of Southern, and so you have these like little subtle digs where you're very polite, but it's very backhanded polite. So like when he gave me my chance to speak, and I was like, I would like to thank you all for being here, and I'd like to apologize for wasting every one of your time, because this is a giant waste of time.
It's the right way to play it. Yeah, that's called the high ground maneuver. You've just taken the high ground from Dog.
Yep. And before that, we had a team practice, which he said I was not allowed at, and I was I'll be at the field. Come arrest me. And before we started practice, I gathered all the parents up and said, hey, this is what happened. I could have responded on the group text, but that's just gonna once again waste everybody's time and piss off everybody at me, because I was the one that started the whole thing. So, but I gathered them up. I said, here's the deal. And if you guys don't want me to coach, so be it. I'll step down. And they said, no, this is stupid. So they all voted unanimously to have me coach, and or whatever. So we show up, and then he kept trying to tell me that he's going to kick my daughter out of the league too. And I said, no, you're not. And then my wife called him.
That's just evil, man. At that point, taking a kid out of playing t-ball. I mean, that's
that's like a supervillain move, right? It's only the supervillains in movies that threaten the family of the hero, right? Yeah. Isn't that why most superheroes, they have their secret personas? Like they have your public Superman, but you don't want anybody to know what your secret persona is, because you want to keep your family safe. This motherfucker coming after your kids.
Yeah,
it's like a mafia boss, which we know the government is anyway.
Well, and then he even like, I guess if your daughter stays in the league, you'll have to arrange with somebody to take her to and pick her up from practice. Well, fuck off, guy! Like that's not your decision to make, Jerry. And so like he calls, and he said, are you available at this time? And I said, no, we got cattle coming in after hours. I'm going to have to unload cattle. I can't make it. Well, he schedules that meeting right during that time anyways. And so luckily my boss is a badass. So I told him what the hell was going on. And he's like, all right, well, let me know if I need to bail you out of jail. So I was like, don't worry, Jared Dog, I'll be there. I'll be there with bells on.
I would hope, by the way, those St. Bernards that rescue people in the snowy mountains, and they have barrels of whiskey around their necks. I would hope that your boss just sent like a well-trained cattle. It just has money on tied to a bell around its neck. It just, Bessie's here to bail Matt out again.
Well, you're speaking of your boss. You're speaking of yourself, right?
No.
Or do you have a boss?
Not yet. No, I work.
Cowboys have bosses? What?
Yeah, well, cowboys are a true cowboy never really owns their own cattle. They're just they're punching cattle for somebody else. But
right, yeah, that's why I always understood it. It's kind of because don't you also a lot of times you kind of rotate around for a few different owners, right?
Sometimes, yeah. That would be the day trash, as they call them. That's not a derogatory term. That is like proudly used term is day trash. But that day help, day help, day hands, whatever. It just depends on the part of the country. There's certain parts that are like big kind of corporate owned ranches, and then like myself, I work at a feedlot, so it's a bigger outfit that owns it, but it's not like one of the giant feedlots. But
sir,
anyway,
what do you do for a living? I'm day trash.
Day trash or day thug. That's the terminology they use now. The kids use nowadays, but. So my boss, he was really cool about it. So he's like, I'll bail you out if I need to. And it's not going to come to that, but anyway, I told him I'd be there, and he's also going to broadcast it on Zoom, because that's what the world we live in now. But all of a sudden, mysteriously, he couldn't get Wi-Fi connection. So the Zoom call was out, so I couldn't send it out to the rest of the parents. And he just did like a conference call. And the first thing he said was like, we're here to discuss whether or not to remove Matt and his daughter. And I said, hold on, Jerry. You mentioned my daughter's name one more time. I will file a restraining order against you for harassment, because she's 6 years old and she has done nothing wrong. She will play t-ball. And if you mention her again, I will consider that harassment, and I will file a restraining order. And Sophia's name never got mentioned one more time. So that was good. That was good.
You got the drone sniper thing on you again.
I think so, yeah. But then like I pled, he did his whole deal, and and it was all very legalistic, just violating safety policies, and they finally let me speak, and I was like, let's not church it up with safety policies here, Jerry. We're talking about sunflower seeds. You threatened to throw me in jail over fucking sunflower seeds, and nobody else seems to have a problem with the fact that he threatened to have me arrested for trespassing when it all started over a smart-ass comment about sunflower seeds. That's the world we live in nowadays. And and then one of the other coaches, I had a pretty good couple of people behind me with like legal like bylaws, Little League bylaws, and like the the whole inner workings of it. I didn't know any of that, which was good. I was gonna do the research, but other people did it, so it was cool because I could just go out and rant, and it was pretty awesome. And he didn't expect me to be there, and he expected to be just like a quick 20-minute discussion, up or down vote, and kick me out. But we showed up, we made a stink out of it, and it was ridiculous. We let everybody know that it was ridiculous, even me included. I said yes, and one of the guys said, it sounds like it was a pissing contest. I said it absolutely was a pissing contest, and I pissed further than that guy.
Well, it's like, speaking just to the fact that he didn't expect you to show up and you did, there is so much power that people don't realize in simply showing up to things. Because nobody wants to show up to anything, and it's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's a fucking huge pain in the ass to show up to things, but it is very powerful. Like, what's going on with the Mises Caucus right now in the Libertarian movement. It's just the Mises Caucus. They've got a lot of energy. They have people that are willing to show up, and they show up in numbers, and you can change it. But even if it's just one person, if you didn't make that meeting, you know how it would have gone. Oh, yeah. But the fact that you were there, you showed up. Yeah. It's like fighting parking tickets and shit like that. Even dumb shit. You show up. Half the time you're going to get out of the parking ticket. Half the time the cop's not going to be there. They know it's ticky-tack bullshit, and they're going to back down. But people don't show up.
And the cop is getting paid overtime most of the time if they show up, and they still don't show up.
They still don't show up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's he ended up backing down pretty hard, and when it all came down to it, there was no vote held, no nothing, and the very first game, not even the opening ceremonies, nobody's wearing a goddamn mask like is required. And you're like, so why did you choose to do this line in the sand? I don't understand it.
They still went ahead with the standard and traditional spitting in each other's mouths. That went ahead as planned. No problems there.
Yeah.
No, it just sounds insane. And then, before we transition off this, because we've actually already gone through about 40 minutes of the show, which is surprising. But I want to hear about young Kate, who hasn't said more than 3 words in the actual broadcast here. I want to hear her Antifa
I told you
story.
I was in the witness protection program. So
yeah,
I got to be really careful.
Yeah, well, I want to hear about that, but I was going to say, just like, I saw this anti-racist, like somewhere in Virginia, they're making Little League coaches go through anti-racist training, and the county is paying, $1,000 per coach to attend this shit. It's that kind of nonsense where it's like, it's not helping the kids. All it is, and they get aptly, they call it virtue signaling, a bunch of virtue signaling assholes putting everybody through this. But it reminds me of what you went through, because the kids are out there. It's like, let them play, let them go out. You don't need to impose all this horseshit on top of them because you want to, have a pissing contest because you want to have the big dick in the room. So,
yeah, it's just insane. But yeah, Kate's had it a lot rougher than I have. Like I just get to talk shit from the sidelines for the most part.
Yeah, Matt's lucky that he lives. Well, I live in Vermontistan, so it's things are really, really, really difficult here. I mean, I think it's pretty similar to Portland or parts of California, and it's really sad because my family's been basically in this general area. A lot of our family's been here, for hundreds of years, and it's just really, really, really changed. And Vermont used to be really built upon sort of that individualism, but also community minded. Like, I really like our state motto is freedom and unity, which is kind of a nice combo. And it's just completely changed. I think just the modern culture wars haven't worked well here, and we're kind of really easy to dominate people because we're, it's, I think, kind of stoic and quiet, really polite, really welcoming. We're one of the first states that outlawed slavery. We have kind of a different take, I think, on Christianity. Like Ethan Allen had some really interesting ideas about Christianity, pretty out there for the time. And so we've basically been very welcoming because we're a pretty poor state. After World War II, there was a lot of really cheap farmland as the dairy industry kind of was collapsing, and it's just all been bought up, which is fine. And I think that can bring, a lot of new things and new ideas, but it's just that, unfortunately, that idea of narcissism and people being, just really self-centered and just really unable to see worth in neighbors who might not have gone to an Ivy League school or something like that. And I think it's the clash of the urban and the agrarian cultures. Yeah. So I kind of made it. I saw a lot of really horrible prejudice and real abuse going on with people in my community and around the state. And so, and I saw it after. There's a book that Joel Salatin wrote called "Everything I Want to Do Is Illegal," and that's basically been like how my life has played out. So I wanted to
selling heroin, meth. Yeah.
No. So mine was mine was splitting and selling firewood from my farm. Yeah. And so
you're like Luke from Summer House.
Yeah.
So shout out to our other Bravo and beer.
Really badass, splitting firewood and selling it.
Let me see your hands. Yeah. I don't believe you. Let me see how calloused your hands are.
Don't worry, it's with a machine, so a cord every 45 minutes. So it's nice. And our farm was zoned for agriculture and forestry. That's why we bought this land. And anyway, so we went through the whole process of that, and I had never experienced just zoning and just what a nightmare that can be when you're dealing with boards that are now made up of people who don't understand your culture and what it takes to live. Like, not everyone can, drive a Prius, and somebody has to drive the snowplow truck, like there was just no understanding. And so anyways, I saw that breakdown, and that's what got me writing more and speaking out more. And while that process was going on, I thought of myself as progressive at that time. And then I just realized what assholes I was surrounded, and how just lack of common sense people had. And I think at that time too, the progressive left was moving to psycho land left. And
how long ago was this? Like, what year are we talking?
I'm talking like 5 years ago, 6 years ago was when it really hit hard for me. Mm-hmm. But I also was I was much more of a, I mean, I thought of myself as progressive, but I think that was just because I was surrounded in such an area where you were so brainwashed that was kind of the only thing. So I mean, a lot of my beliefs, they aren't anything new. But
it kind of reminds me, your experience, I think, is a lot of people's experience, especially if you have an area that is highly progressive. Like here in LA, if I corner people, I can talk to them and they'll agree with most of the points I make, right? If you get people out of the bubble of the echo chamber of progressive thinking, of people pressuring them to think away or being judged a certain way, then without a doubt, people's minds will open up and they'll agree with most of what you'll say from a more logical kind of centrist perspective. And that's probably, same thing with you. If you're hearing all this nonsense all the time, naturally you think, oh, well, this must be the correct way to think. But then once you start thinking for yourself, it's
and I think
apparent.
When the rest of the country is waking up to things like the 1619 Project, but growing up in a progressive environment, that was really all I was taught. Mm-hmm. I went to a really progressive private high school, and that was all we were reading. And so there were huge gaps, I think, also in my education. So as I filled those in when we started homeschooling, that was also a rapid expansion for me intellectually, because I started to be like, wait a second, that's not what the Constitution says.
Well, it's education by omission right now, right? I mean, even insofar as how you go with how history is being taught, they're literally teaching, and I've read about this in a lot of classrooms, they're teaching history by virtue of how different people were oppressed through time. No longer actual history, how people were oppressed through time.
Yeah. No, and so that firewood incident was what sort of cracked the ice for me. And then basically as I became more outspoken, I really truly believe that I always spoke in a respectful way, but I would challenge the Karens, on local Facebook pages and stuff, not to be mean and not to troll them, but just be like, hold on a second. Like, seems like, you're forcing people to wear masks is going against this or whatever. And so I think
that's a dangerous game, calling out a Karen in a local Facebook page.
And I think I naively thought that the left was still where I left them, where we were still really tolerant of other people's ideas. And yes, we may, scream at people or something, but we're not going to joke about burning down their home with children inside. So things really progressed, and I didn't understand the depth of mental illness that so many people are facing, I think, and how they're I think how technology has really done a lot of damage. I mean, I think people should probably, take more time to take a walk outside. And
no, you're 100% right on that. I've talked about this before. I think social media, without a doubt, is causing. I think it's either causing or exacerbating a lot of people's mental issues, and I think that a lot of the violence you see stemming not only from mass shootings, but also just in everyday life comes from people not only not being able to associate with people, not being able to understand and hear different viewpoints because you're in an echo chamber, right? All the news you're being fed, all the friends' news you're being fed, echo chamber.
But that is
it's
still
not
such
even
a
like
choice, though. I mean, that's what I feel like. I feel like technology has been incredibly a wonderful, useful tool for bridging the gaps for different cultures and stuff like that. So I don't know why people are choosing to use it in such a toxic way because. Like one time
it's self-fulfilling, right? Think about that. It's
I guess, but it's so
getting
short
the likes, getting the kudos,
Yeah, I guess, but I feel like was so awesome when I was still on Instagram. Like one night, some random guy from Iran and I had a long conversation. And it was like wonderful, and we were able to be open.
This has been wonderful. Please
send me $500. No, but
thank you for telling me about your life.
Now we get married. I need 90-day visa
and 3 goats,
which sounds pretty good about now. If I compare that, if I could leave all the leftist people, I'd maybe go there. No, so it's basically between it's just been basically being like Hester Prynne. And living in fear. And, I'm disappointed that it has silenced me, because I know being silent is not the right thing. But I guess temporarily, safety and family safety matters. And it's just unbelievable. So, yeah, I think I don't want to ever lose faith in humanity and in people. I don't want them to take that from me as well, but it's been super disappointing to have people who have known me basically my whole life believe made up crap about being racist, and that in an instant can destroy everything. Can destroy your business, can get people fired from jobs, and it's all based upon lies. And to think that the people who know you and who have known you forever and you've considered, loyal friends, to think that they don't pick up the phone and just ask you, is this right?
Like what allegations are being made? What kind of shit are they putting?
Well, I put a sign up. There was a guy running who is a farmer, and I actually helped write a lot of his ag policy for the state. He was running for governor, and during the primary, I put his sign up totally within, like, on my own property. It was like a small, little political sign. Mm-hmm. And this person called the police on me. And that was horrible. And then they
called the police for you putting a political sign.
Because it was a sign of white supremacy.
What?
What?
And so literally you cannot be anything except for a leftist, or you are not just a white supremacist, but now you're a domestic terrorist.
Well,
this isn't too far. I mean, I live in Pittsburgh now, and my parents, the house I grew up in, is not far away. It's just the next town over. I'm hearing a little echo. Anyone else hearing that?
Kate, I think Kate, you put your I think it's your.
But I mean, yeah, similar to that. And I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't think Trump supporters should be called racists and white supremacists. And I think 99.9% of them aren't. And this one guy on my parents' street, a nice suburb outside of Pittsburgh, had this big Trump sign up that had his accomplishments. You could argue the accomplishments if they weren't, whatever. But somebody just came over and spray painted racist, white supremacist all over the sign. But to the guy's credit who owned the house and put the sign up, he decided just to leave it up there just to show it as like, this is what we're dealing with. This is how people are acting. So
Did they spell white supremacist correctly? Because that is hilarious.
See, the thing is, I don't know how to spell it, so I don't know.
That'd be hard to. That's a lot to fit on a small sign. I mean,
it is.
It was a big. I mean, this was a big. It was probably
was it like a banner.
I think it was big. I mean, no. I mean, it was like a 15-foot wide sign. It was pretty big.
That's what we had a guy up the road who had that, and he's a Vietnam vet, and he struggles with a lot of issues, and he's not the kind of guy that I would want to go on his property and fuck with his shit late at night personally. So I was a little surprised someone did this. So they kept doing that. He had a giant homemade one, and I mean, you can agree, disagree. I think he has every right to put whatever sign he wants on his property, especially when everyone else has crazy signs up.
Oh yeah, and, can you imagine? I mean, the fucking signs I see in L.A.
Oh yeah,
everybody's got the same stupid ass bullshit sign. We support Black Lives. We believe in science. We believe water is blah blah blah. Actually, we haven't even talked about the fucking water future shit you sent, Matt. But yeah, it's like if it would be front page news if anybody went up to a BLM sign or any this rainbow science is great crap and painted something on there like I don't even know what you paint on there because we wouldn't do it.
Spray paint a dick on it.
Right,
that's
yeah.
all.
But
I was going to say,
we wouldn't do
that.
That's the thing. We wouldn't do
anything besides a dick. So, like
he means his own dick. He's not talking about drawing dicks. Matt spray paints his own dick a different color every day of the week. They call him the ever hardening Godstopper.
I try to be as white as possible. All right, Coke told me to.
Well, this guy somebody kept coming and taking it, and we've got a college in town, so he was thinking it was those people, but so he put up some really good cameras, and so then he took we have a lot of apples here in Vermont, Johnny Appleseed and stuff, so there's this sticky trap stuff that you can paint on fake apples, and basically the bugs go to it and it sticks. It's like an incredible super glue that never dries. So and I don't even know if it's still legal anymore, but anyways, he had some, container of it in his shed. He painted the whole freaking sign with it. And then at 2 a.m, someone pulled up, probably in a Prius or a Subaru, and they took it out and they got in the car, and he said you could just see them sticking to it, and they were just sticking to the steering wheel and everything. I wanted to.
Oh, please, can you get the video?
I know, I want the video. I want the video so bad. He was really
ask him. Tell him about it. Tell him oh God, it'd be like a libertarian podcast wants the video. I promise we'll blur out any personal.
Well, and it was so bad. The people came back. The people came back. I mean, this is what's so weird. Imagine stealing something like that, being all sticky. I think they got really scared. They came back like 2 hours later at dawn and put the sign back up.
That's awesome.
With people like that, you almost half expect them to call the police. Like, I was stealing this sign, and then it's sticky stuff on it, and now it's stuck to me.
I feel danger. I feel I'm being accosted.
I have to make sure it's gluten free.
Is this adhesive organic?
GMO free.
Were any horses killed in the making of this adhesive?
That's a good question.
I can only hope. I got a couple I could add to that.
Poor old mares.
Well.
So do you want to talk? Do you want to talk a little bit about that water futures?
Water's
So I made a prediction here a while back, and I do stand by it. I think the gun control stuff is going to lead to armed conflict, but I think like a true civil war, and you guys probably have no idea the scope of it, just not being in this community, but like there's like 4, 5, 6 generation ranches with very well established water rights, and places like LA and Denver and Phoenix are just going to be continuing to buy up land, much like Bill Gates is doing, and they don't plan on farming. They buy up farmland, but just strictly for the water rights to divert to California, divert to these major cities. And I think, it'll be I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that, but I think if there's going to be like another like real bloody civil war, it's going to start in the West and it's going to start over water rights. I truly believe that. And then that the fact that water is being traded as a commodity now on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange scares every living shit out of me. And I'm 100% a private property libertarian type. I haven't gone full anarchy yet. I'm close, but I'm not convinced. I think it's still a little utopian sounding. But I think that's where we need to work towards. But water rights are a real tricky issue. My dad is currently tied up in a big struggle with water rights, and man, like that thing scares the living shit out of me, because the way Colorado's going right now, the groundwater is basically supposed to be regulated if they follow the state law. It's a pretty good system where like if you apply for a permit, somebody can object. There's like a 35-day period when you apply for a well. And if nobody objects, then it just gets granted. But if somebody objects, they're supposed to do a test and see if there's unallocated water below the surface. And basically what my dad's dealing with is a good old boys club. Everybody on the water commission owns an irrigation dealership or is a huge farmer, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And my dad got held in contempt of court at 75 years old. Pretty awesome.
Good for him. Still full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah. He's kind of become an activist since he left the state house. But basically, he was the one guy filing objections against all these wells. This investment company with ties to Russia, but basically it's just like a huge multinational corporation bought this ranch just south of where I grew up, and it's a very, very dry part of the world. Like we're talking an average year of rainfall is like 11 inches a year, less than an inch of rainfall a month. And to top it off, there's no running water. Like we have a river pretty close to us, but it's all underground. It's just a very dry part of the world. It's the part of the world that Zebulon Pike dubbed the Great American Desert back in the day. And this company bought this ranch and immediately applied for like 80-something new wells, and there's just not that much water down there. And it's all well and good for a couple of years until they suck the aquifer dry, and then that entire part of the world becomes useless. Like absolutely useless. So like you're talking 4th, 5th, 6th generation ranches that they're gone. Like they have no choice.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I actually I shockingly know a lot about this. Well, water rights is its own issue, but I worked in my PR side with a guy whose his whole focus is water conservation, and he shares your opinion that water is going to be the big battleground, and also how he views it as an international or national defense issue because of California being, a breadbasket. We produce a lot of produce.
I'll let you finish, but
you do. You need the water, but also, Yeah, like and being in Colorado, most of the major rivers in the western United States originate in Colorado. The headwaters are in Colorado. So we have compacts with Nebraska, Kansas, California, Arizona, like everything starts in Colorado, and most of those water laws were established well before modern irrigation practices and modern cities as well. So it's an outdated system.
Well, without a doubt, it is, and people. It's just one of those things that people don't really think about because it's not something that really, for most Americans or most people in their everyday lives, comes to the top of the surface. As far as, ironically, because we're talking about wells, but it doesn't come to the surface in many people's minds. But so to put some context in what we're talking about here, Matt had sent a story, and like you said, the water futures are now listed on the Mercantile Exchange, meaning that now it comes into play monetary incentives. Whether or not people want to get into betting on the futures of water, how you could, like Elon Musk, maybe you have the ability to alter the market with a phrase if you own a lot of water to try to influence that marketplace. But I'll give a little bit of a more rosy outlook on this, and this is kind of the same way I look at climate change, is that, what you've got, especially with getting the market involved, right? I actually view it as a good thing because when you have the threat of a marketplace in place, when you have the threat of water costs, and some people are arguing it could be good for people because they can know what water costs are going to be, you can budget and allocate accordingly. But for me, I look at it as that if there's a marketplace for this, if there's now a demand, if there's a quantitative place in which money can be made, money can be lost, but also you look at water as a finite resource. I think this is much like climate change, something where if it becomes a threat and there's money to be made in desalinization, in finding new ways to create water, to make sure that we can keep the water we have or divert it in ways that are going to be much more profitable, much more effective, I think you're going to see a massive industry well up. Get it? I know. I should just kill myself now. But you're going to see industries come up to respond to that because now there is more money to be made than ever before.
The industry largely is already there. If you look at what Israel's doing with desalinization, they have the technology, and it's just a matter of
expensive. It's expensive right now. It's very energy. It's energy consuming. So it's just a matter of. But if there's money to be made, finding the technology to do it,
iterate
cheaper,
over time,
faster.
And it just depends. Yeah, you need. So I could see that with it becoming, a market commodity. Ultimately, that should help drive technology into the sector. You would think.
You would think, because if it's a marketable commodity, then people in the tech sector would be like, okay, now this is something I can market this. I can provide this water. I can impact the futures market. This is, I just think, like anything, the free market provides as long as it's left unhindered. So the question is, how's the government going to fuck it up if people try to get in there and find solutions?
Yeah, and the way the system is set up now, the fourth, fifth generation rancher that has the senior water rights on this creek, that they have standing under the law, they have standing historically. They're not going to have the money to fight some foreign investment group that buys a ranch that is going to keep it for 2 years and then in turn sell the water rights to the city of LA or wherever. And that's the part. And so I guess kind of my final point I wanted to make for you guys is like the ag community has been overlooked for so long. And we I know, like, on a libertarian level, like, you always feel like you're in the fight of your life. But here in the ag community, we really are, and we have been for a long fucking time. We're the only industry that everybody who bitches against us will not survive without us. Like, no chance they survive without
we can survive without the farmers who aren't farming shit and just collecting the checks. We can survive without those motherfuckers.
That's true. But like
you're gonna hate.
That's not everybody.
You're gonna hate my episode. Not this week. Well, this week already happened. Next Thursday, with it's about a documentary, and one of the things they talk about in the documentary is growing meat
Oh yeah. I will never eat grown meat. I will say right now, I will have Matt slaughter a cow, even though that's not what he does. I'll slaughter a cow and ship me the meat before I eat any grown meat.
I'll pay somebody else to do that. I can do it, but a full finished steer is going to weigh about 1,400 pounds. That's a lot of fucking work. A big deer is going to weigh 300. I can do that all day in my sleep, but a big cow.
You and Odie should hunt together.
Hey,
there's elk out in Nevada, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it costs a lot to hunt an elk out here, but there's some big ones. But no, we've been overlooked for a long time. We're like one of the, outside of like the oil industry, we're one of the few industries that people like need to survive, but yet they treat us like shit. And part of that's our own doing. Like the beef industry is in a big pickle. There's the episode that I released yesterday, there's a fella in North Platte, Nebraska. He's got a group of people, and they're building their own slaughterhouse, and it's all rancher-owned cooperative type deal, just to try to cut into. There's 4 main companies that control the entire meat industry in the U.S. 2 of them are Brazilian-owned, by the way. I'm not a xenophobe by any means, but when it comes to my food, I'd like it to be based here where I live. You know, that's kind of.
I do love their Brazilian all-you-can-eat restaurants. If you've been to those, I don't know if you have them in your town, but they are delicious. Oh my god!
I haven't been there.
So many cuts.
I want to, and I have nothing
delicious. It'll change your mind. It'll change your mind.
I work for one of these Brazilian companies, and it's just it's a corporate conglomerate. It's whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they're no worse than any American corporate conglomerate. But at the end of the day, I'd like my food supply to stay here, you know, relatively local to the most part. But this guy is he's sticking his neck out, and it's kind of like Maj Touré says, you know, like everybody can bitch about something, but what are the solutions? And this guy's like trying to make a solution. And I'd say, like, I know the Mises Caucus is gaining a lot of steam, but you guys should focus a little bit on rural America. There, you have a very receptive audience. Especially,
that's a good point.
I don't know what Trump's going to do. That's kind of going to hinge on a lot of how rural America goes, is what Trump decides to do. But there's a lot of people that don't like either party right now, and it's pretty ripe picking, I guess. It's ripe for the picking,
and it's volatile too. I mean, I think Matt and I are both involved in the ranching and agricultural community, and I more in the sort of small, medium-sized farming community. But I would also say, like, logging and forestry, I mean, that's something we really all rely upon, and they're treated even worse than agriculture. Yeah, like it's not the loggers who are making money.
Well, it's also you know, the crackdowns on logging industry has led to a lot of, at least in California and other places, has actually led to a lot of the increase in forest fires, because these environmentalist dickholes make they convince politicians to make these broad laws that then fuck up the natural way in which timber gets out of the forest. They allow for buildup, and Trump was right about this. I'll give him credit. He was right in that. And this is my ecologist guy. I was talking about the water guy. Same thing. He talks about this, and he's as left as you can get. You have too much shit building up on the forest floors. You don't have loggers allowed to go in there and try to clear any of that shit out, clear out the old wood, clear out the dead trees.
They're trying to strip away grazing off of public lands too, and that.
Why?
That's what happened to Bundy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, and that was all over water rights and environmental issues, and the whole thing with the Hammonds up in Oregon, which was a far more serious case than the Bundys. The Bundys, for as kind of bumbling as they are very good at defending themselves. The Hammonds are just your typical rancher, just like good, hardworking, law-abiding, and they're just like, I don't know about that law. It seems, but like, you know, the court said we're guilty. They prosecuted this ranch family up in Oregon, by the way, same family that Lavoy Finicum was murdered over when they were protesting. But it was all over a wildfire. Got started. This family owned a grazing allotment, or what a lot of people call a grazing permit. That's a whole different issue. You guys should look into that. But
I'll check it out. Well, the good news is they got fucked over, and then they went on to create Jurassic Park, right? Wasn't the
yeah.
scientist
like
named
that.
John Hammond in that?
I was it? I think so. It's been a while since
I think it was
Jurassic Park. If you would ask me John Wayne or Clint Eastwood movie, I would have corrected you, but I don't have anything.
Well, I think I'm feeling pretty confident about this. So they went on to ranch in a different way, but dinosaur ranch.
I'll defer to your expertise on that. But basically, it was I don't know if it was a lightning strike or whatever, but it was a naturally occurring wildfire, and they set a backburn. The Hammond family did basically. So you burn a strip of land so that it doesn't have a chance to jump into a more fertile piece of ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's tried and true back to the Native American days.
Yeah, and so in doing so, they burnt like 140 acres of their own grazing permit, but it was public land. So how that works is the federal government owns the logging and the mineral rights, and the rancher owns the water and the grazing rights. It's not public land. It's a dual estate. That is how the law works. But it was their own allotment. They burnt 140 acres of it, saved probably 10,000 acres by doing so. And they prosecuted and convicted this family, a father-son, under domestic terrorism law, arson under domestic terrorism law.
Unfucking believable.
Yeah, so that's what that whole thing was. They're like I said, the ag community, especially like the Western rancher, is fertile for the picking for the libertarian community if somebody would spend a little time.
Yeah. You're talking to a lot of libertarians who have never had sex. All you had to say is that they're fertile. They'd be in there in like Flynn.
Yeah, that might be the biggest problem of the libertarian community is the lack of sex. Probably, like everybody is for it, but nobody's willing to go get it.
That's the biggest problem with the what generation is behind the millennials generation?
Gen Z,
Gen
Y.
Yeah.
I think it's Z, like ZHE. Isn't that what we call it now? And that's the pronoun.
Yeah.
Like the.
Well, what was funny is Jess Mears. I don't know if you guys know who Jess Mears is, but she had been running the communications for the Libertarian Party for a little while, or at least helping out. And she had tweeted out, she goes, if you could say what the Libertarian Party needs more than anything, what would it be? And I just tweeted at her, sex. And she didn't like it.
She didn't retweet that one?
She didn't like that one.
No laughing face emoji.
Nothing. Fucking nothing, even though Ed dead on that great. Well, should we wrap this up?
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. Hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, it's
all right. Well,
pretty good.
Hey fellas.
Yeah. Let me. Let's give you some time to plug your podcast and whatever else you got going on.
Yeah. So me and young Katie here, she's my producer. I run a show called Burnin Daylight. You can find me wherever you get your podcast. Just Burnin Daylight. No G on the burn in because we're hip and cool like that. All the social media is it's either Burnin Daylight or at Move Your Ass, MOVEYERASS.
I don't think I fucking follow you. How hard?
Well, how dare you?
You got to follow him on Instagram. That's a good follow.
I will.
Please follow me. I'm shadow banned like a son of a bitch. But it's called a podcast for the working cowboy because that's. I'm going to pull my best Dan Aykroyd from Tommy Boy because that's who I am. That's who I care about. But you can learn a lot. We talk a little bit of liberty, we tell a ton of dick jokes. So check us out. Post 3 times a week, and it's usually a good time.
Sometimes it's not even dick jokes. It's just talking about the best way to castrate an animal at length.
Yeah. How can you beat it?
The guy I was talking to has been doing it for 72 years, so that's pretty cool too.
That's a lot. Wait, is castrating from birth, or is he like 82?
He's 89 or almost 89, and he's been a working cowboy for 72 years.
Damn, man.
Life. Yeah,
that's wow. Well, you guys must not gallop a lot then. It's just a slow stroll.
Oh no! See, this guy's well, his name's Billy, but his nickname is Boots, and that's what everybody calls him. No, he's a legit cowboy. He's employed by one of the bigger ranches in the U.S. and they've actually told him, I don't know that the ranch just sold, so that part's up in the air. But the previous owner told him that like he could die on that ranch even if he's not working there. So he's nice. Been there, and he's got enough money where he can move to town, but he likes watching them bring the horses in the morning, and he's quite the character. I've somehow convinced him to do a show with me every Sunday, and it's pretty fucking rad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it sounds. I mean, that's a life. I know we're wrapping up. I'll keep you short, but that's a life, man. I could see myself enjoying, honestly. Yeah. And also, I look forward to, if I ever do get into that life, I look forward to finding Curly's gold.
There you go.
There you go. Billy Crystal.
City Slickers. Yes, thank you. There we go. See, we're all going out. All
right. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. It actually made our March Madness tournament to the top 64 Western.
Awesome. So. Awesome.
Kate, did you have anything you wanted to talk about or plug here?
Yeah, if you want to give me a shout. I'm not posting a ton right now, but you can watch my find out more about homesteading and farming, and you can watch my Fall from Grace on my Instagram, which is Meadowdale Farm. But also, yeah, check out the Burnin Daylight podcast. I'm on there shooting the shit with Matt a fair amount, mostly talking about politics. So it's a good time.
There you go.
All right. Well, from
Matt,
from Kate. No. I was about to sign off, and that was awkward. Yeah, sorry about that. Appreciate you too, Matt. Sorry I cut you off.
No worries, man. It was awesome. This was fun.
Yeah, good time. We'll do it again sometime. So from Kate, from Matt, from Brian, from Odie, this is the Lions of Liberty signing off. See ya.
See ya.